Once again, it's a session that's been designed to give you the opportunity to tap in to some expert knowledge and insight, but also, no less importantly, to tailor the information flow to your own particular interests and needs and preoccupations by raising questions and points at the end with our panel of speakers. Please don't be shy about doing that. By this stage in the week, you should all have got the measure of one another and lost any shyness or diffidence about speaking up in front of each other that might have been there. Not that I saw much evidence of it at yesterday's discussion. Do please join in and make this a memorable closing dialogue. As you know, a central theme of the week has been to assess the potential contribution that the principles and the experience of the Inspire initiative had to offer in advancing the Europe 2020 strategy for smart, sustainable and inclusive growth. One of the flagship initiatives of the strategy is the Digital Agenda for Europe, of which developing the infrastructures for e-government is a key element. And you can see some of the action points that have been identified on this slide. You hardly need me to tell you that it's a very big agenda, and it's one that's very close to the heart of the EU's core mission, addressing, as it does, the prospect of empowering citizens to access public services across the EU, strengthening common activities between institutions of public policy in different member states, and advancing the internal market by using technology to overcome administrative and other barriers to the free movement of goods and people and knowledge and information. But of course it's also lent topicality by the fiscal pressures bearing down on all the member states and by the consequent determination of governments to try to do more with less, or at the very least to try to keep on doing what's important to their citizens, but by more efficient and less costly means. That creates a real impetus and a real urgency behind concepts like e-health and e-environment and e-learning, as well as attracting policymakers to the general prospect of replacing universal service provision with the idea of the empowered consumer citizen, assembling a basket of bespoke services to suit his or her particular circumstances. Now, big ideas like those depend on information technology for their credibility, and IT in turn depends for its viability on eradicating duplication and waste by sharing information across both institutional and geographical borders. The Inspire model of creating infrastructures for environmental and geospatial data sharing is therefore clearly relevant. It is a time of opportunity. But of course there are also barriers to overcome. E-government requires more than just efficient transfer mechanisms. It also has to satisfy other imperatives, some of which are specific to the public policy realm. Accountability, accessibility, user-friendliness, voter-friendliness, flexibility, adaptability, transparency, security, cost. The implications of these things run from ensuring that no citizens are excluded by entry costs or by lack of technical expertise, to getting rid of some of the quite impenetrable jargon which so enchants the kind of specialists who typically develop and use many of the Inspire infrastructures. Hard though you may find it to believe, even words like infrastructure can be a bit of a problem. So that's our topic for this morning. What are the lessons that Inspire has to teach in advancing the digital agenda and the cause of e-government? What progress has been made? What further progress is in reasonable prospect? And what barriers need to be overcome? How is progress affected by economic adversity? How might the strategy need to be adjusted to take account of fiscal and political change? What are the priorities? How are they best tackled? What works? What does not work? The session is going to be structured as follows. In a moment I'm going to introduce the first of our distinguished contributors. Each will speak in turn for a few minutes, and then we'll throw the discussion open for your contributions, which can be addressed either to the panel singly or collectively. I'm perfectly happy to take comments as well as questions, but I would ask for brevity so that we can tackle as many of the issues as possible. Two very quick bits of housekeeping, if I may, before we start. The first is just to remind those of you who haven't heard this said before that the presentations that you're going to see in here will be available to you online after the conference, and therefore there's no need to sit and write furiously as facts and figures go whistling past your head. Secondly, it would be greatly appreciated if mobile phones, Blackberries and other musical instruments were set to Trappist mode while we're in session. Now we're going to begin with an account of the Cambridge Conference 2011, which, as many of you will know, is the premier opportunity for heads of the national mapping and spatial agencies to come together and share knowledge and experience. It's been taking place since last weekend, and to update us on some of the key themes